Don't worry, my man. You'll learn. You'll learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, welcome to it. Uh, I am going out to lunch. So, you know, I guess I'm taking you with me. Shoot. Anyway, so I just wanted to, I mean, I know that you still had like, oh goodness, okay, and he's gone. Seeing that he's a truck driver, he goes to another bad
Hello?
area.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
hey,
mean, it's me, bro. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm on.
what's
I'm
up?
on now.
Yeah, you'll learn. You'll learn.
Yeah. I just want to say shalom, shalom to everybody out there. I want to say peace to the brothers and sisters that's in the room right now, and
Yeah,
giving honor and praise to the Most High God, to His Son Yeshua. I hope everybody's having a good day so far. I just wanted to say a couple things. That's all. I know how a lot of y'all feel about the Israelite community, and it's fine. Some of y'all gonna bash me when I get off this call, and I'm cool with that too. I ain't bugging off for that. But I'm me and that brother so real. I've been on this brother for a minute, and we go back and forth, but it's all out of love. What's going on? Hello?
yeah, I'm still here, man. I'm listening. I'm just doing like a few things at once. I'm listening.
All right. And yes, I believe Gentiles can gain salvation. Yes, I do. I ain't out here wilding or anything like that. Come in peace, like always. But I want to say something. Um, when we talk about Christ, and we talk about the prophets of the Old Testament, and then when we talk about the disciples, they not once. Yes, my English is horrible too. They not once ever taught against the law at all. Christ never said with his own mouth that the laws were done on. And I know a lot of y'all gonna say, well, it's either Christ or it's either the laws. My question is, my question is, how do we know if we're sinning? How do we know if we committed adultery? How do we know if you done something that was not right pertaining to Christ? I just that's something I want to know. Like, please explain that to me.
All right. So, how do we know if we're sinning pertaining to Christ? That's what you asked me.
Yeah, that's my question. Like, how do we know you are sinning pertaining to Christ? Because from my understanding, you're telling me the laws are done away with. We're done. They're done. They've
Yeah.
been a lot of Christians that I know say the law has been nailed to the cross, and that's what I've been taught when I grew up in the Christian church too. Also,
Right.
so how do you know if you're sinning? Like that was my number one question.
All right. So the way that you know that you're sinning is that God convicts your conscience. That's basically what it boils down to when you hear about people who don't have the law, but they still end up knowing right from wrong. And Romans 1 kind of fleshes that out and says, well, people who don't have the law, they still end up doing things that are in their heart that's according to the law. And they said that their conscience bears witness. Well, your conscience bears witness is because, well, it says that those things are in your heart. The reason why those kind of laws are in your heart is because those laws reflect the character of God. This is the reason why I keep on talking about the moral law so much. They may not have had the phrase moral law in the Old or New Testament, but you always will see them talking about the righteousness of the law of righteousness. That phrase is all throughout the Old and New Testament. And that's what kind of law that's written in the hearts of everybody. And that is the reason why we know right from wrong. When it says that we're made in the image and likeness of God, that's where that plays out. That's the reason why, once again, in Romans 1 and 2, it could say, well, yeah, although they knew God, they still repressed the truth in unrighteousness, right? There was still some denial. Matter of fact, they actually said that, yeah, people knew God by, the plain things in creation that was made. So they came to the revelation that there was a God by creation itself, because it says that creation points to God anyway. This is how Paul is looking at people who never had the law. It's like, how can you sin without the law? How can you do right without the law? But yet these categories are in Romans chapter 1 and 2. The only way that they're in there is if because you have the law of God being their conscience, their moral conscience compass in their heart. That's the reason why people could know whether or not that they're sinning. Now, if you're going to talk about certain sins, like moral, like just straight up different moral sins, that's what it's talking about. But if you're talking about how do you know that you're not keeping the Sabbath day, well, that's only going to be limited to Israel. That's a sin for them. Knowing,
okay.
I don't know if I'm eating a clean and unclean meat. Well, that's the reason why they were allowed to sell unclean meat to the Gentiles. Gentiles didn't have that. So there are certain sins that come from the violation of the laws of Moses.
When you
But
say the law,
that's not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro. My fault. I apologize.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to say was, and this will be my last point. If you look somewhere in Genesis, there was a man named Balaam. And of course, it was pretty obvious that Balaam was not an Israelite at all. Yet he said, man, you know what? I sinned. Sorry, I sinned. Well, what kind of sin is he talking about if he didn't even have the law? How can he sin if the law of Moses was not even in existence in Genesis? And this is the reason why you have to look at what certain sins were according to the law of Moses and what certain sins were according to the law of God that he put in your heart, right? The moral conscience. When you know right or wrong. When James says, to him that knoweth to do right and he doeth wrong, to him it is sin. He said that in passing. They didn't have to make a whole chapter on that. Why? Because that was just, common sense of the day. That's why you'll be hard pressed to find stuff like that. Because they're just assuming that you already know this stuff. Like, we shouldn't be having a conversation about this. Like, that's how they're looking at it. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how.
So, is that what you tell somebody that's coming in? Y'all say the word saved. Y'all say, oh, I'm saved. So when somebody's first coming in as a Christian pertaining to what y'all teach.
Well, I mean, don't the Bible say saved? Like, hey, you want to be saved? Like, saying it like it ain't in the Bible or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but what do you say from? That's the question.
Oh, you're saved from sin. Matter of fact, you're saved from a lot of things if you just read the New Testament. You're saved from the wrath of God, right? You're also saved from hell. Let me see. Yeah, just a lot of stuff. Just read the New Testament. It'll say where you're saved from.
So you tell somebody that the law is completely done away with. Period. Done. It's done. You don't even have to acknowledge the law at all. Period. Right?
Well, I wouldn't say.
I'm
Right.
curious.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say you wouldn't have to acknowledge the law. I mean, of course, you do want to acknowledge it to see how it points to Christ. You know what I mean? But yeah, I would say that the law of Moses is done away with.
You keep saying the law of Moses. That's
Yep.
not the law of Moses. If you actually pay attention, what y'all call the law of Moses, That law, a lot of the laws was already implemented before Moses. A lot of
What
them laws.
laws? Which ones? Can you give me one example? Give me one example.
Sacrifice.
All right, law of sacrifice. That's one. What's another one that's implemented before Moses?
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, what's another one that's implemented before Moses? Matter of fact, I'll give you one. This wasn't a law, but this was something that they just practiced. Tithing. All right, so now it's your turn. I want you to go ahead and name another one. Anything else? Anything you can think of?
Hold on. Also, you know, not to sleep with nobody else's wife either.
Say it again.
Not to sleep with nobody else's wife either.
Well, now that's before the law of Moses.
If I'm wrong, then I'll stand corrected. But I want to say yes before the law of Moses. Not to sleep with nobody
And
else's spouse.
right, and that is where an example of where at.
Killing,
No,
killing
no, no,
somebody.
no, 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 no. We're talking about
Oh,
wife, not kill.
I said that I said I might be wrong. I'll stand corrected.
Oh, oh, all right. Oh, okay. So, all right. So
I just
you
said
went on to killing
y'all
now.
heard y'all heard me. I said that I might be wrong, but I stand corrected. I have no
Right,
problem
right.
being
Okay.
wrong.
No,
Yeah, I
no,
have a
that's
problem
that's
with that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's right. I mean I get you. So you will move on to killing now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And any other things? Anything else?
Offering.
Offerings. Okay. And anything else?
As right now, there's nothing else I can think of right now.
All right. Ah, dang. Let me order this um Chipotle sandwich real quick. Give me about like 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yeah, give me one too while you at it. Okay.
Hey, what's going on? I think my usual. I'm gonna get uh, what is it? Try to be burrito. Let me see. I'll take brown rice today. I'll take black beans.
Man, I should be done.
I ain't going to. I'll take corn. Uh, yeah, a little bit of it. Just a little bit. I don't know why. No. Oh, you know what? Give me that one.
Dang,
Hold
man.
on, I'm almost done. Hold on.
Nah, you good, bro? Good.
All right, thank you. No, no. All right, thank you. I'll put that in there. Oh, crap. I, okay, they are jamming in there. All right, I'm done. All right, so what was you saying? You said like you had the law of sacrifice, and then there was I named tithing, and then you
Yeah, that's
named
tithing.
yeah, then you
Offering.
named offerings, and
Yeah.
then you named killing people
I didn't say
and
kill people. I just said murder. I just said murder. Yeah.
murder. Well, yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, let's go ahead and look at that. All those things existed before the law of Moses, right? Right?
You said you call it the law of Moses. I say it's the law that Moses got from the Most High, or he could have got from the Most
Right,
High. And there was
right,
a, I mean, but there was a reason why. I mean, there was a reason why that Moses was giving them laws.
right. Yeah, I got that. But you know, even though
Yeah.
we both acknowledge that, I'm just saying it because that's what the Bible says. The Bible just says the law of Moses. That's what it says. You know, we know that the law did not come from Moses as if he didn't receive nothing from God. Like we all know that.
Oh, okay. I
But
thought you were just.
I mean, no,
I
just
thought you
look
were
at the
just
Bible.
saying. Well, let me
Yeah.
finish.
Oh, my fault.
Like, yeah, like I said, I thought you were just saying it like, oh, these are the law of Moses, and you know what I'm saying, not pertaining to the Most High. So, like I said, I apologize. Like, you know what I mean, for that.
No, it's
For that
cool. It's
assumption.
cool.
Yeah, I ain't no problem
It's
with that
all good.
assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, so all those laws, all those practices, whatever you want to call them, they made it into the law of Moses, right?
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Right. Right. Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to respond. So,
I'm done. I'm
okay.
listening. Go
So,
ahead.
right. So, when those things were all nailed to the cross, why is it still wrong to kill, but it's not a big deal if you don't sacrifice anymore?
Hold on.
If they both,
Say
if
that
they,
again. Say that again.
I'll make it even more clear. Sacrifice,
Yeah.
offering,
What about it?
killing people. You got ceremonial laws, and then you actually have a moral law. Both of them made it into the law of Moses, right? So we're both standing at that point. We're on the same page. Then all of a sudden, I asked the question, why is it wrong to kill somebody still, but it's not wrong if you don't sacrifice anymore?
Why? That's a simple question. Like, bro, I believe in Christ. Christ is
Right. In other words, that's been done away, hasn't it?
yeah, sacrifice. Yes, yes.
Right. But yet, killing that's still wrong, isn't it?
Right.
Why? Why is it still wrong?
Because who are you to take somebody else's life? Like, why would you
Uh
take somebody? I said, because who are we to take somebody else's life? That's not right at all. Like, I mean,
huh.
to take somebody's
And
life.
what? And what are you basing that on? Are you basing that on the law of Moses, or are you basing that on something higher? What are you basing that on?
That's going against the grand of the Most High and through His Son Christ.
Say it again.
I said that's going against the Most High and through His Son Christ.
So it's going against God. And I just asked you, are you basing that on the law of Moses, or are you basing that on God? Now, if you say it's going against God, then I'm assuming that you're basing that on God, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly, right. That's why it's called a moral law. Do you know why Omar would feel wrong if he killed somebody and he watched somebody breathe their last breath?
Tell me
Because
why.
that is something that does not reflect the character of God.
Yeah, that's
God is
common sense.
not right. God is not, some blind murderer. Now, God could go ahead and judge and take people's life. He gives people life. He take it away. Hey, he's God. He's a righteous judge. That's cool. But unlike man, who is a murderer, that's wrong. That does not reflect the character of God. You're faithful. I've told you this before. You are a faithful man. You are a righteous person because God is righteous, right? You do the right thing because God does the right thing. And all those things are based on God's character. And He put all those moral compasses inside your heart. And you know to do right and you know to do wrong. And that's what's called the moral law. That is the reason why when law was done away with, all that stuff about the sacrifices and all that, y'all could care less now. Seeing that His Son was the final one. But yet, it's still wrong to kill. You see that? So that is the difference between the moral law and the ceremonial law. So when I say that the law of Moses is done away with, that's what I mean. That's what's done away with. There were things that existed before the law of Moses, such as those ceremonial kind of things and the sacrifices, and also the moral law. But even then, moral law was based on God. Ceremonial law, that was based on, you know, obedience. So that's the reason why I always say that, yes, the law of Moses is done away. You know, the moral law is not the law of Moses. It preceded it. So yeah, that's the reason why, you know, it ends up saying that he abolished in his body, you know, our sin and nailed him to the cross. It says all that stuff.
Yeah, that's because we don't have to sacrifice no more. That's why, bro.
It never limited.
We don't have to
It
sacrifice
never
no more.
limited sacrifice.
We don't have to sacrifice for our sins no more. We don't have to do that no more. We have to slaughter another animal for our sins.
It never limited it to sacrifice. It said the whole thing was done away.
Whoa.
As a matter of fact, that's how the covenant is spoken about.
That's that whole, when you say the whole law was done away with, that's false. And if you're saying,
well, you gonna have to show it.
Let me say this real quick. If you're saying the actual written law is done away with, is that what you're saying? The actual written law is done away with? Or are you just saying the law? Are you saying the law that the Most High gave Moses is done? It's finito. It's abolished.
Yes,
it's finished.
Yes, the law, exactly. The law of Moses, the law that God gave Moses under the first covenant is done away with. Matter of fact, it makes it even more clear when it says the old covenant is done away with. That's double clear, because that includes what's in that covenant. So you could just go and just look at the covenant and just say, well, dag, if he's talking about the covenant is done away with, then the whole thing about Moses shouldn't even be a question. So even when you look at how they're talking about the covenant, that's even more of an emphasis point. And I'm not going to go through all my points because, I just refer you back to the video I just did about an hour ago. I exhaustively went through that. So yeah, I mean that's the reason why you see Paul and Jesus and the rest of them talking about the way they do about the dietary law. That's the reason why you see that.
Whoa.
If it was really still in effect, they'd have been like, hey, put that meat down, fam. Nah, dietary law. Boom.
What did Christ say about the law? Did he say the law was done away with?
Did Christ say the law was done away with?
Yeah, did Christ say the law was done away with?
No, Christ never said the law was done away with. He said he came to fulfill it.
Yeah, what is the fulfillment? That's an obligation. He was obligated to fulfill the law.
But that's how he done away with it. He fulfilled it.
He done away with the law as far as sacrifice, as far as judgment, as far as ceremonial. He didn't done away with.
Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. Is a dietary law a ceremonial law?
The dietary law is a ceremonial law.
Yeah, is a dietary law a ceremonial law?
As far as what?
As far as ceremonies, as far as ceremonial law, is a dietary law a ceremonial law?
Well, that's pertaining to certain animals you can sacrifice. That's what that law, as far as the ceremonial law, is pertaining to. As far as certain things you could.
I've never heard of. Hold on.
Clean and unclean animals.
That you can eat.
But would you sacrifice? Hold up. But would you sacrifice a pig?
Would you eat a pig?
No, I want no pig.
Right. Is the dietary law a part of the ceremonial law?
It's part of it pertaining to the animals that you can sacrifice.
Once again, the sacrificial laws and the ceremonial law, I mean, the sacrificial laws and the dietary laws are different laws. There's laws that you sacrifice, and there's laws that you abstain from certain things that you eat.
I'm not
So
disagreeing
I'm going
with
to ask
that.
you,
I'm not
okay, so
disagreeing with
if
you.
that's the case, okay, so if that's the case, then is the dietary law also a ceremonial law as much as a sacrificial law is a ceremonial law?
Once again, when it comes to the certain food, certain things that you can sacrifice that are clean and unclean animals, that's part of a law where you cannot sacrifice certain animals. There's certain
Once
animals you can't sacrifice. A
again,
dietary law is based
once
off the
again, you're, okay,
hold on. A dietary law is based off the foods that can definitely affect you also. Like a pig. Why do we have high blood pressure? My fault. High blood pressure. A pig doesn't sweat. A pig is a scavenger. Shrimp, lobster, those are
hold on.
scavengers. They serve a purpose. That
Okay,
stuff can cause harm to your. That stuff can cause harm to your body.
okay, two issues. Issue number one, God never put in any context of health as a reason why he wanted us to have a dietary law. He never said, hold on, hear me out, hear me out,
It
hear me
should
out.
be set
No, no,
apart.
hear me out, hear me
It
out,
should be set
hear me out.
apart.
Yeah, okay, right.
It should be set
There
apart.
it is. Right. That is the context. The context was not health. The context was
But that still
sanctification.
plays. That
No,
still
no,
plays. That still plays a
no,
role.
wait,
Yes, it does.
wait. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Good.
When you were deemed unclean, and God said, "Okay, you stay outside the camp for a day or 7 days till
You're breaking
evening."
up.
And okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, good. Yeah, you're good. Good.
Yeah, but when God said, "All right, you stay outside this camp for about a day or 7 days," and then after that, in the evening time, you come on back, and you will be declared clean. A doctor would not do that. A doctor would not say, "Hey, you know what, bro? You've been eating bacon, and definitely know the way to get your cholesterol down. Stand outside the camp for about a day, and then by the end of the day, come on back in. Your body should be fully healed. You should be all right." You ain't gonna say that. That's a ceremonial act, and it had a higher representation of something. That's the reason why the emphasis was sanctification, set apart, right? Earthly thing, heavenly thing. You eat this, you don't eat that. You are my holy people, set apart. You're supposed to represent my kingdom on earth, my nation on earth. The thing that you eat, the thing that you wear, the thing that you don't mix. You don't mix certain cloths. One is earthly, the other one's heavenly. One is unclean, the other one's clean. And that was a representation. That had nothing to do with the emphasis of, I'm trying to make it healthy. I'm trying to make it strong. God had a message he's trying to get out to the world. That my kingdom is a kingdom of holiness, and this is the way it looks. And I'm going to use the shoes to show that kingdom looks. That was the emphasis. And for us to reduce it,
You're breaking up.
I'm breaking up. All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, and so for us to reduce it to something else, like, well, he really put this in place for health. Well, it just casts a shadow on the real reason why he ended up doing this.
Let me ask you right quick.
Okay.
Doctor, if you went to a doctor, right, and this doctor told you to stop eating pork, stop eating shrimp, would you listen to that doctor? Because it's hazardous. Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yes, I'm saved.
But only because that doctor told you that the foods that you are eating is affecting your health.
Yes. If he said those foods were affecting my health, I would stop eating those foods.
Go ahead, bro. You got it.
All right, so I wanted to get back to my original question. Is the dietary law a ceremonial law?
The dietary law is not a ceremonial law itself. The dietary law itself is not a ceremonial law. And if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. I have no issue with that.
Okay, so that means that was done away with. That means that was done away with.
That is false.
Okay, so how is that false? If you just said
the law of sacrifice because Christ is the ultimate sacrifice. Christ was perfect. Christ is perfect. He was unblemished.
Omar, earlier you said ceremonies as well. That's why I asked the question.
I said ceremonial law are done
Yep.
away with. That are
Exactly.
Done away with.
Right.
Law is not done away with.
Is it a ceremonial law?
I don't believe the dietary law is a ceremonial law because when you talk about
so my next question.
When you talk about certain foods to sacrifice unto the Most High, why would you sacrifice an unclean animal? That's common sense.
The same reason why God deemed the unclean animal to eat. So is the dietary law a ceremonial law? Yes or no?
I do not believe, and if I'm wrong, I stand corrected.
Okay, so
let me finish. It's not a ceremonial law. But why would you sacrifice unclean animals unto the Most High?
The same reason why you would not eat. No, excuse me. The same reason why you would not eat. Yeah, the same reason why you would not eat unclean foods. Clean and unclean to sacrifice, clean and unclean to eat. I don't know why you have a blind spot here. I don't understand it. It should be very obvious. There really is no difference here because they're both ceremonies. Now, my next question is the dietary law a moral law?
Is it a moral law?
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask this question. If I say I believe in the Mashiach, and I believe that I'm following him his ways,
No. Excuse me. I asked you a question. Nah, I'm tired of this. Nah, I'm tired of this. Every time I ask a question.
Show out.
No, there ain't no show out. Every time I ask a question to a lot of Hebrew, they ask a question.
It's the same thing with Christians too. Y'all got that too. Stop it.
Nope.
Stop it.
Nope.
Stop
Every
it.
time. Nope.
Stop
Every
it.
time. Nope. Every time. Nope.
I'm listening.
Every time. Nope. All right. No. Every time that you ask me a question, I answer it.
You said a moral law.
Yeah.
Moral law. I know. Listen, I'm asking you a question. I know this goes against the Most High.
No.
I know this goes against the Most High. I know this goes against the Most High.
So my question to you again is.
I answered your question.
So my question to you again is the dietary law?
You're breaking up again. I don't know why, but you're breaking up again.
You hear me now?
That's Hazelwood, bro. You ain't
Hazelwood.
Yeah, that's
nah. So the question is the dietary law?
Is it dietary law or moral law? Hello?
Yes, that's my question. Or is it a ceremonial law?
From my understanding, the dietary law is not a ceremonial law. It's a dietary law. It's a law to keep you. It's a law, bro. It's a law to keep you from eating filthy animals. Put animals up in your body, but that's not supposed to go into your body. So you won't defile yourself.
Is clean and unclean a ceremonial thing?
So you won't be a defilement.
Right. Is that a ceremonial thing?
All right. Once again, I'm gonna ask you a question.
No. I'm asking you the question.
I'm going to answer your question. If I know I put something in my body that is harmful to my body, and the Most High is telling me also that these foods I should not eat, that is a defilement unto my body, wouldn't that be like a sense of separation from the Most High when you putting stuff in your body, other business putting in your body?
Your question makes a presumption that God never emphasized. You already just agreed with me.
Nope.
Excuse me. Listen. No. You're disagreeing with the fact that you just agreed with me earlier. Let's walk through this again. I gave you a long answer about how clean and unclean.
Kingdom. You would tell somebody.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Go ahead. Got
We're
you
gonna
in
stay
it.
here. We ain't moving from here. I gotta flesh this out. I just gave
You're
you.
breaking up. Go ahead. You're breaking up. You're breaking up. I don't know
Okay,
why you're breaking up, but you're breaking up.
I don't know. You hear me now? You hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm clear. Now, I just gave you a reason that you agreed as to the reason, the purpose behind the context of the dietary law. I talked about clean and unclean, representing sanctification, set apart. You're my holy people. You are to represent my kingdom on earth. Heavenly things, earthly things, clean, unclean. I want my kingdom to be seen on earth. I want this tabernacle here to be after the pattern that I give you. That pattern, according to Hebrews, was heavenly copies. All this stuff is pertaining to sanctification. Not once does God say, I want you to do this for your health. Not once. Now all of a sudden, I ask you the question, and you say, well, now I changed my mind. I'm going to ask you where God is putting the emphasis on health and no emphasis on I want you to be separate.
You're breaking. Yo, you're breaking up.
I'm breaking up.
Hello. You're breaking up. Matt. Matt. Yo, you breaking up. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, good. I can hear you a little bit.
Um,
Turn my headphones up.
uh, yeah. So like
Oh, snap. Oh, wow. I, I, I can't even hear you.
okay, can you hear me now?
Now, go ahead. I asked you your question.
Oh, right. And what was your answer?
Oh, I can hear you now. Good, clear.
Okay, good. Because I asked you the question, did God ever put an emphasis of health on the dietary law instead of his emphasis of holiness and set apartness?
He put emphasis. He put emphasis. I said emphasis. He put emphasis on being set apart. That's what holy means.
Right. But did he put an emphasis on health?
Did he put emphasis on the health? No, he didn't put. I would say he didn't put emphasis on health, but that's still common sense. Like that's still common sense.
Okay, so who is adding? Okay, so who is adding that emphasis? God or man?
That's he put emphasis on being set apart.
Exactly, and we know why. Because once again, what does that represent? His what? It starts with a K.
Say that again.
Why did he
Breaking up, breaking up, breaking up. I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. Why is my stuff doing this?
go in the
Hello?
territory?
I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Um,
I still can't hear you. I can hear you, but I can't hear what you're saying. Like I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. It's crazy. I can hear you now. It's like you just sound far away.
Well, I'm literally, just breathing.
Oh man, are you serious? All right, it's like when you ask me, can I hear you? It's like you come closer, then it's not like you're far away.
Well, I haven't moved. I'm here. I ain't going nowhere.
I would say he didn't put emphasis on health. He put emphasis on being set apart. Sound far away, bro. I don't know why. Hello?
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello. Oh wait, he's gone. Hold on. Let me see if I can do a little something here. Uh, was that? If he don't come back, then I don't know. Maybe I'll just take some random questions. But I mean, until then, I mean, I mean, y'all could obviously see the problem. Um, well, first off, can y'all hear me? Okay, yeah. All right, Atlantis, he said, yes, we can hear you. All right. Um, like I said, and hopefully he comes back. But if not, I'm gonna shut this down. Or I don't know, or maybe I'll have some questions from the chat. But what I make of it is this: basically, you got somebody who is not being consistent. All right, good. Thank you, brother Jay. You got somebody who's not being consistent. You said, I told him, is the dietary law a ceremonial law? His answer was, well, the dietary law in terms of clean and unclean animals to sacrifice. Wait a minute, we're not talking about the law of sacrifice. We're talking about the ceremonial law, what you put into your mouth, not what animal you put onto the altar. That's different. This repeated numerous times. Then after that, yeah, I know, you're right. But then after that, he had finally said, well, uh, yes, the dietary law does have clean and unclean, with it, just like the sacrificial law has clean and unclean with it. And I said, okay, therefore, based on this, is the dietary law a ceremonial law? Because once again, he said the ceremonial laws were done away with. He said, well, you have an emphasis of health as a reason why God didn't want us to do these things. I said, is that the purpose as to why he made the dietary law, or was it something else? Now, me, I gave an answer. I went through the whole reasons behind clean and unclean. Had to be with being set apart. Set apartness had to do with the reflection of God's kingdom on the earth. You don't mix certain kind of cloths. You don't mix certain kind of plants. You don't mix certain kind of food. You don't even mix certain kind of animals to work together. Clean, unclean, clean, unclean, heavenly, earthly, heavenly, earthly. All throughout the book of Hebrews, ironically, it speaks about this, about the heavenly copies of earthly things. It speaks about this when Stephen, before he was even killed, he said, listen, we know that, Moses made the tabernacle according to the pattern that God gave him. Then you look in Exodus. What was Moses instructed by God? Make this tabernacle according to the pattern that I show you. What pattern? The pattern of heaven, the pattern of the kingdom of heaven, his home, God's home that he wanted to represent on earth. That's the reason why he did it. That's the reason why he had all these laws in place. Had nothing to do with health. If you put health in that area, then you downplay God's clear reason why he put it in there. You don't want to downplay what God says. Hold on, let me try to get him back one more time. Like, 'cause I don't want to like yap through this without him being here. You know what I'm saying? Go to text him real quick. Come back in. All right. Anyway, where was I? So that is the reason why. If the ceremonial laws are done away, then that means all of the law of Moses is done away because those were ceremonies, right? The Sabbath was a sign according to Exodus. I repeat, the Sabbath was called a sign, a symbol, right? That was surrounded by a ceremonial practice of working for 6 days and no longer for the seventh day. That's a ceremonial thing. The dietary law, that's a ceremonial law. Circumcising your babies on the eighth day that they're born, that's a ceremonial law. Declaring a woman to be unclean after she gives childbirth, that's a ceremonial law. Saying that you got to stand outside the camp for 7 days and then after that and come back and you will be deemed clean, that's a ceremonial law. Do you know that there was two types of clean in the new in the Old Testament? There was ceremonial clean. I went through this before. Check my Jesus and the Law of Moses uh, video. Excellent presentation. Took me forever to put it together, but I didn't care. There's tahir. That's the ceremonially unclean. Okay. Then there's the other one where it's bor and zak and zakah, and that's talking about morally, ethically, spiritually clean. Look at how they're using the words. Every time you look up those words, you will see them in certain categories. And the only time that you'll see them being mixed together, especially tahir, when you look at that definition, the majority of the definitions are ceremonial. The minority of the times it's moral. But when you look at the complaints of God and the complaints of the prophets and what the children of Israel cried out to be, it was the moral cleanliness. That's what it was. And anytime they were getting their ceremonial stuff wrong, when God was complaining about how they were getting their ceremonial stuff wrong, what was the root of his complaint? Moral things. Okay, so you're giving me this animal just like I asked you, but it's lame, or it's not the first one. It's not it's rotten. It's poison. And what did God say, or what did the prophet through God say, or whatever? Uh, he said, "Well, give that to your governor." Do you think that you would be able to receive favor if you gave that to your governor? This is talking about a moral relationship. You do right by God, even in the ceremonies. So if your ceremonial stuff is morally wrong, then all of a sudden that makes it wrong. That's the reason why the moral law preceded the ceremonial law. That is the reason why the moral law is higher than the ceremonial law. And that is the reason why God said, I require mercy and not sacrifice. People like to look at that word mercy and really they say it means covenant faithfulness and not sacrifice. Well, faithfulness, that's a moral thing. You are a faithful person because God is a faithful person. If God said He's gonna do something, He gonna do it. Same way with you. Keep your word. It's a moral thing, isn't it? I don't know, y'all. He ain't coming back. So once again, I'm gonna just shut this down. But look, man, like, yeah, I admit these are some hardball conversations, and but I don't know. It is what it is. Maybe it had to get to this point. You know what I'm saying? If you check the earlier conversations, it's pretty much kind of like, dialogue and whatever. But I admit, after a while, now we're hitting the hardball point. So I don't know. Other than that, I guess I'll pretty much wrap it up. And if since he ain't text me, I guess we'll talk next time. Other than that, I'm about to eat this Chipotle. You know, wishing it had fried chicken. How was that Chipotle? Ooh, who is that? Andrew Miradamari. Oh, that's what's up, man. I'm getting all kind of people in here. Yeah, it's good, man. Um, I get the shredded beef burrito. That's what I get. I get a little bit of um, what is it? What do you call it? Get the tomatoes in there, and I get the corn, and I get um the guacamole sauce or whatever it's called. I forget. And then I get a pineapple, orange, banana drink. You know. Oh yeah, Drew. Drew. All right, cool, cool. Oh, wait a minute. What? There's two of them. Just call me Drew. Miranda is my wife. Okay. That's just like a joint account. Uh, oh, hello, you Huguenon. Hold on, hold on, hold on. He said, if there is no law, there is no sin. Okay. Here, let me pull something up real quick. See if he can explain this. Now, notice for the 18th time, I'm only going to pull up stuff I already did. Y'all keep noticing this? Because we can't get past this. So let me go to and address this. And if you want a link, you come on in, man. You know. Well, hold on. Let me go ahead and address this real quick. Hold on. Check this out. Land of the living.
Hold on. Let me
This ain't over.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, just keep talking, man. Let me, check if you did something.
Hold on.
Yeah, shoot, man. I ain't making no shoot. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man, but that sound effect sound like some Twisted Metal 2 from Fire.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you clear now. You clear, man.
Yeah.
Hey. All right.
I ain't on this job tomorrow. This is crazy. All this rain.
What you say?
No, I'm talking to myself. I just got signed out at work, man. Looking at this job thing.
So,
But
yeah, let me ask
but like I
once
said,
again. With that, so once again, I'm just going to ask you one more time, in light of how God is not,
I don't know why.
and in light of how God is talking about the emphasis of holiness, is the dietary law a ceremonial law? If it has the law,
And I said no.
Okay, so it
From
is
my understanding, no.
right. So from now, does your understanding reflect what's emphasized in the Bible about what makes you clean and unclean and dietary?
What makes you clean and unclean when it comes to dietary?
Yes, the fact that it has the clean and unclean construct in there shows and puts it automatically in a ceremonial category. If not, then we might as well say that the ceremonial the law of sacrifice is not a ceremonial law either.
Oh no, I didn't say that.
So the law of sacrifice has the component of clean and unclean, and it's a ceremonial law, isn't it?
The law of sacrifice is a ceremonial law, and it also has to do with clean animals and filthy animals.
And yet the dietary law has the same stipulations, but it's not a ceremonial law. Is that what you're saying?
I said from my understanding.
I understand. Right. So from
my understanding that the dietary law is not done away with.
No. I asked you, was the dietary law a ceremonial law? You said from your understanding. So show me your understanding being reflected or confirmed with any scripture that you choose. The floor is yours. Because I can give you plenty of scriptures where it talks about dietary law. And guess what it's going to sound like? Ceremony.
I'm listening. Good. I can't pull no scriptures out right now.
Okay. All right. Well, then all right. Well, how about this? Next question. How about this?
No. I want you, but you're able to pull the scriptures. I want you to go ahead, pull the scriptures up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
pull the scriptures up.
All right. The only place that I know
right now. I'm driving.
It's okay. That's all right. So the only place that I know of right now is Leviticus 11 and Leviticus 19. So I'm gonna go ahead to Leviticus 11, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Now this is what it says. Okay.
I don't know why I can't hear you, but go ahead.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, good. This is what it says. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a parted the hoof, is the cloven footed and chew the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the horse, or the camel, and because of the chew the cud, not he is unclean to you. And the counter, because he chewed the cud, and divided not the horse, he and the hair, he is unclean. Now,
I'm
have,
familiar. I'm
okay,
familiar.
good.
I'm familiar with Leviticus, bro.
Right. So, okay, good. So it says that, it also says that these are abomination to him. You shall not eat the flesh of these things, right? All right. It just says all this stuff. Every raven after its kind, and the owl, and the night hawk, and the same with all and he shall eat these. Wheresoever is something that departs that is unclean unto you. Now, time out. You're not eating something that is unclean. It didn't say, oh, God is saying as like as like he treats like that. He's not
Man,
treating like, oh man, you know what?
you breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Whatever
so
you're doing when you say you can hear me now, stay wherever that area is that you are at.
I don't know, like maybe it's a magic word or something, but so far I'm going through Leviticus 11, and
Right?
you gotta. It's 47 verses. There's no way I'm reading all this. But my question to you is, where in Leviticus 11 is God emphasizing health instead of the emphasis of clean and unclean, just like he emphasizes for sacrifice?
I agree with you on that. It said I agree that there's no emphasis on the health. I agree with you on that. But
So
still,
on so
the dietary law is still not done away with. And on top of that, if we say we are followers of Christ, and we also say that we believe the writings of the prophets and also the disciples that was with Christ, and that's inspired by the inspired by the Most High. I mean, isn't the whole meaning us following Christ is do as Christ did, and his Christ once again, and neither did Paul. None of the prophets, none of the disciples taught against the law. Like, so if we're following, this is simple. Like, if we following Christ, why wouldn't we following Christ be set apart?
okay, personally, I'm trying to think of hold on.
Wouldn't that
Okay,
be,
you know what?
wouldn't that be set apart?
Okay, just hold on. I just received something. They say that every time that one of us talk, we have to mute our mics so that way we can be heard.
Okay. All right, my
Right.
fault, bro.
So,
Let me mute
you
my
go ahead.
mic. I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
mute
mute
my
my
mic.
mic.
I'm gonna mute my mic. I don't know how to do this. It's crazy.
Yeah, just tap
Hello?
the screen. Yeah, just
Oh, the
tap the
top of the
screen.
screen?
Yeah, and you'll see like a little option on the left.
All right, Lord, I'm about to mute my mic, and then you go ahead.
Okay.
And then you go ahead and speak. And then when you're done, then I'll unmute my app. So whoever told you, tell them I said good luck.
Yeah, that was Mama Cherry.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead. So I'm muting my mic. Go ahead.
All right. So the first thing you said was that that the dietary law was not done away with, and you base this on the fact that A, you said Jesus never taught that it was done away with. B, the disciples never taught against it. And C, we are to follow Christ, right? And we are to do as he did, right? And they like to base that on the famous scripture of, hey, we should walk as he walked, right? First off, let's go ahead and deal with the idea that the Old Testament is not done away with, or the dietary law is not done away with. If you look at the covenant, if it says in Hebrews chapter 8 that by this new covenant, the first one is made obsolete. That is a way of saying that the law is also done away with. The law of Moses, it came with that covenant because the new covenant that's not based on the covenant that I made with your fathers when I took man out of the living water, it's not based on that. So therefore, it's definitely done away with. The second thing you said, well, Jesus never taught against the dietary law. He never said don't keep dietary law. Now, in one sense, you're correct. In one sense, you're not. Let me show you. You are correct when you have said that Jesus never said don't go against the dietary law. Like Jesus never, or go against the dietary law. Like Jesus never said that out of his mouth. But what he did say in Mark chapter 7, he said, listen, it's not what goes into you that makes you unclean. It's what comes out of you that makes you unclean. Now, if you're a Jew back in the first century, you automatically know what he's talking about. Clean, unclean. Like we don't have to, speculate and see, did he really mean? No, it was very clear. They're talking about eating. Matter of fact, in the verse, everyone's washing their hands before they what? Before they eat. So that's what he's talking about. If that is the case, then that means he's saying whatever you eat, you're no longer unclean based on what you eat, but you are unclean based on what comes out of your heart. And guess what? Did he name food or did he name sins? Well, you know what? Mark chapter 7 shows that he didn't name foods, did he? He didn't say, it's what comes out of you that makes you unclean. Ribs, pork, bacon, and cheese, and eggs, and that. No, he said, adultery, fornication, anger, and wrath, and that's what he said. That was the emphasis. That's what he taught his disciples, and the disciples took note on that. That is the reason why in Acts chapter 10, where you actually have the animals that were deemed unclean being compared to Gentiles, he said, listen, call nothing unclean that I have made clean. In other words, this new covenant made the Gentiles clean to enter in. And he showed this in the way of animals. And he also showed this by telling Peter to kill and eat. And this is 5 chapters before Acts 15. So you have a double sword there. You have, you know, you have Gentiles and you have food. Also, look at Acts 15 in verse 20 and verse 21. That was a perfect opportunity for them to say exactly what you would say. Perfect opportunity. All they had to say was, look, you got these Gentiles here. They're basically having all this nasty kind of food around. What's the answer? Well, just tell them to keep the dietary law. That's all they had to say. They had the perfect opportunity to say your answer. But did they do that? No. Let's read what they said they did. I'm going to read. I'm going to just read verse 20 and 21. It's what it says. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled, it's talking about food, right? How they kill their food, and from blood. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preacheth him. Who's the them that preacheth him? The Jews are them that preach Moses. Just like in verse 1 where they're preaching, you got to do all this stuff to be saved. Being read in the synagogues. Who's in the synagogues? The Jews are. Every Sabbath day. That's what they told them to do. They just said, listen, keep away from foods that are sacrificed to idols, and you will do well. That's all you got to do. Then in Romans 14, I don't even have to read that. Just read the whole chapter. That explains it in itself. If the dietary law is done away with, Romans 14 and Acts 15 verses 20 and 21 should not exist, let alone 1 Corinthians 10. So when I read the Bible, How is it that you say that the dietary law is not done away in light of these passages? That's my question to you. All right, bro. You're on. Hey, let me try to text him. I don't know what's going on in there.
Hello?
Yeah, you need me to repeat the question?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
You gotta get better signal, man. But I'll type you the question in the chat. How about that? Let me do that real quick. All right, man. If you can read that out loud, that's my question to you, man.
Hello?
Yeah, man. I typed you my question in the chat. So if you
All
can
right.
read that out loud, then go ahead. I'm going on mute.
All right, so you asked me, when you talk about, all right, well, let me address, when you talk about the vision that Simon Peter had, it wasn't pertaining to food. He was using the food as an example pertaining to the Gentiles. And I already expressed that I believe Gentiles can get salvation. So, but I'll touch on that. The reason the vision that vision that Peter got was because at the time that it was unlawful for us to keep company of Gentiles. Right? We know that. Like, and, hello? Dang, man. Why am I like?
Yeah, you're
Off
still
foot.
here. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, that vision that Peter got. That's we know it wasn't talking about food. It was talking about him going around Gentiles, because Cornelius, because Cornelius was on faithful to the Most High. So Cornelius was sent for him. So that vision was when for him to go around Gentiles. After that,
that's all you got to say. Just walk on. That's all you got to say.
I can't hear you. I don't know why.
Try to go on mute, and
And
then
I
I'll.
wasn't talking. And I wasn't just talking about the dietary law in particular. I was just talking about the law period. Christ never taught against the laws. Neither did the disciples never taught against the law. The law of sacrifice was done away. The ceremonial laws was done away with.
You said the ceremonial laws are done away with.
Right, yes.
That includes the dietary law.
No, it doesn't include the dietary law. It does
Is the
not.
dietary? Okay, so is the dietary law? No. So is the dietary law a moral law?
Is the dietary law a moral law? I base it
Yes.
off what the Most High said that I cannot put in my body.
Right, and was that based on ceremonial laws or moral?
That law, that dietary law is also to be set apart.
Right, and it's being set apart as ceremonial practice.
Alright. When we talk about the ceremonial law, are you going to sacrifice a defile? Are you going to sacrifice a filthy animal unto the Most High?
Is being set apart a ceremonial practice?
It's being set apart as ceremonial practice?
Yes.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I would say, that's a good question, bro. I can't even lie. That's a good question. I'll
I mean,
answer this. That's a good question. That's a good question. Yo, that is a good question.
Right. It's not that it's a good question. It's the Bible.
Nah, it's not. It's not. It's a good. That's a very good question.
I'm not. Look, bro, I'm not pulling your coat sleeve or whatever.
No. I'm not taking it like that. I'm not taking it like that at all. Like, trust me. That's a very good question. You said being set apart is being ceremonial, but the ceremonial laws are done away with. But to be set apart is to be not how the world's living. That's all.
And that is a what? Is that a ceremonial practice? Yes or no?
I'll just. It's being set apart ceremonial. I would say no.
Okay. So God's.
I would say no. I would say no.
Okay, so God's whole reason for having this whole tabernacle, temple, certain thing. In other words, it's okay for a non-Levite to go ahead and make sacrifices before God, and God's gonna be okay.
No, I didn't say that. Because I was going to say the only people that was sacrificed were the Levites.
Why? Was it because they had to be set apart?
Was it because they had to be set apart? I mean, Israel as a whole had to be set apart from the world. Like, so
Right.
what are you saying?
Right, but did the Levites have to be set apart from the rest of the Israelites? Did they have to be set apart?
There's an order pertaining to Israel.
Right.
And the Levites. Hold up. The Levites are the mediators to the Most High. Yes.
Right. And being a part of that order, being set apart from the rest of the Israelites.
Hold on, let me mute my mic, and then when you ask me questions, I'll answer the question. I'm messing up because like you keep saying no. So I'm about to mute it right now. Then go ahead. Then I'll unmute it.
Okay, before I ask my question, I want to address one more thing you said. Jesus said, "Be ye holy, for I am holy." He also ends up saying, "Listen," he said, "deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me." He said all those things. He also said to do everything, or to teach the disciples that he commanded us to make everything that he commanded us to do. Everything that Jesus taught, he wanted us to walk in. That is what we're to walk in. That is a context of when it says that we should walk like he walked. That is what that's talking about. Healing the sick. Matthew 25, all that stuff. That's what that's talking about. including his teachings. If you try to say, well, walking as he walked simply means we have to actually keep the law just like he did, which means what? Sacrifices, you know, uh, dietary law, Sabbath, all those things, like including the sacrifices, because there was a time where Jesus did say, "Hey, before you make your sacrifice, go and have forgiveness with your brother, and then bring your gift to the altar." Do you still bring gifts of sacrifice to the altar since you're trying to walk like Jesus? No, you don't. Oh, but Jesus gave advice on these things, and I'm pretty sure he participated in those sacrifices. Why? Because he had to fulfill the law. That's the reason why Jesus followed the law, because he was prophesied to fulfill it. We weren't prophesied to fulfill the law. Therefore, we are not to keep the law like the old covenant Jews did, especially under the new covenant. So if you try to take that verse and say, oh, we should walk like Jesus walked, therefore we should do all these things that the new covenant no longer requires, including sacrificial. No, that's a problem. The last thing I'll say is the setting apart of the Levites a ceremonial act? Is that ceremonial?
So now I'm about to mute my phone.
Yeah, go ahead. Good. The floor is yours. Hello.
All
All
right.
right. Yeah.
Check this out. I'm gonna go to Revelation. Revelation. Hold on. I actually found a spot I can pull over at.
Yeah.
This is 4:17. It says, "Who keep the
Unclean
commandments
birds.
of God, testimony of Yeshua?" Well, I would say Jesus. It's, let me mute my phone. Hello. Hey, go ahead.
Go ahead. Is that the one about the unclean birds?
Nah, Revelation 12:17 is not talking about unclean birds. It's actually talking about, this is the last book, actually talking about keeping the commandments and also following Christ, the testimony of Christ.
Yeah, Revelation 14. All right. So let's go ahead and look at Revelation 14, right? I'll go ahead and read it unless you want to read
Go
it.
ahead.
All right, I'll read it. So this is what it says.
Yeah, I'm still driving. Go ahead, my fault.
All right, cool. This is what it says. It says this. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, every kindred, every tongue, and every people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him. That's a commandment. They're telling them to do that. For the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and sea and the fountains of waters. That's another commandment, to fear God, to worship God, to commune with him, right? And there was another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or on his hand, the same shall drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So now it's given a warning along with these commandments. It's a warning saying if you decide to not worship God, you're going to worship that beast instead, then some bad stuff is going to happen to you. So now you got two warning. Now you got two commandments and a warning. Then after that, what else it says? Let's skip down. And the smoke of the torment ascended up forever and ever, and they will have no rest day or night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth a mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. So yes, they did keep the commandments of God. And what was his commandment? Worship me, right? Fear me, right? It said don't worship or take that image of those bad, beasts and things like that, or else you'll go into eternal torment with
That that
Babylon.
falls. My fault. Go ahead.
Right. So that's what it's talking about when it says keeping the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, right? They often died for their faith. They were martyrs. They refused to worship the Roman gods. They died for their faith and they kept the commandments of God. They did what God told them to do. That's what it's talking about. To read the 10 commandments in there and said, I, kept the Sabbath and, I didn't do this. And that don't even fit anywhere in the narrative of the chapter. And there's other places where Paul, and so this is a phrase that just speaks about, hey, just doing what God tells you. That's what that's talking about.
So, how do we know what to do, how to live according to the Most High? Like that's you said commandments, and then when I go to Revelations, I don't even remember. Hold on. When I went to Revelations and I brought up that scripture, and it says the commandments and the testimony of Christ. That goes in with the commandments, the laws, everything. That's how we know how to fear the Most High. That's how we know how to love our neighbor. That's how we know how, bro. Like that's crazy. You're gonna tell people not to keep the laws, statutes, commandments of the Most High, and tell people just like, yo, just don't keep no law. We're good. You ain't gotta keep no law. You got Christ because you got grace. And when Christ said with his own, he said with himself that he has not come to do away with the law, with the prophets or the commandments. And then he said, "Heaven and earth have not passed." Like I'm confused. Has heaven and earth passed? Good.
Okay, so you didn't deal with the passage at all. All you did was assume law, statutes, and commandments into the verse, and then after that, you jumped over into Jesus saying, "Hey, you know, he didn't say he came to destroy the law, but fulfill the law." So just a second, I'm gonna pull up something for you here. All right, now, I've done this before, and I don't mind doing it again. I'll do it 1,000 times. I don't care. Um, Something I want to show you here. So let's take a look at this. I'm gonna go ahead and put some on screen, okay? So hopefully you can see this, and let me know if
I
you can see.
can't. I can't be on my phone at the same time. So I look at
Okay.
you.
All right. Well,
I don't know why, but it just won't let
it's
me do
okay.
it.
All right. Don't worry about it. All you gotta do is listen. So what I'll do is I'll put it on screen anyway, so that way you can just come on back to the video anytime you like, and you can check it out. All right. And I'll also put it on screen just for people who are watching. So I'm going to show something here. Um, and this is what this piece right here says. Think that not that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. Okay, so God did not, Jesus, well, same difference. Jesus did not come to destroy the law or the prophets. He didn't come to do that. It says, I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill, right? That's what it says. He says, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So he says here that he's not come to destroy, he's come to fulfill. So therefore, he's definitely going to get that done. Then he says, heaven and earth won't pass away until all be fulfilled, right? So you got two different types of fulfillment in there. Now, let's go ahead and deal with the first one. Did Jesus fulfill the law and the prophets, right? Since he said he came to do it, did he do it? Let's look at the Bible. Look at Luke 18, verse 31. It says this, then he took unto him the 12 and said unto them, behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that were written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. Now, when you look at that word accomplished, it's teleo, right? It's teleo. And that means to bring to a close, to finish, to end, past, finished. That's what that means. Then you jump to Luke 22. This is what it says. For I say unto you that this is written, that it must be accomplished, what? In me. Now, this kind of gets into, Ephesians 2 and I think First Peter. It talks about bearing the sins in his body and all that stuff, and how the law was nailed to the cross. So there's something that has to be done and accomplished in Christ that's written about him. What are the things that are written about him? The law, the prophets, and the law. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess till then, you can just continue to listen. He said his call dropped, so I guess he can kind of listen to this as a note snippet. So now he's saying that all this stuff that's written about the law and the prophets, he said it's going to be accomplished in him. This includes his body, because that's how the apostles speak about it. Didn't it say he bore in his body our sins? Didn't it say that he abolished the commandments written in ordinances, nailing them to the cross? And look at what it says. It says, and he was reckoned among the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. What is that word end? It's telos. Telos, right? Very similar to teleo, which means accomplished. But you have telos, that means end. Literally, that's it. Then look at John 19. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, finished, past, bring to a close, that the scripture might be what? Fulfilled. What does fulfill mean? It means to make full, to fill up, to fill to the full. So after something is filled to the full, it all of a sudden is brought to a close, right? Saying, I thirst. Then all of a sudden it says, when Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is what? Finished. Now, when you look up that word finished, once again, it's teleo. It is finished. It is brought to a close. It is ended. It is past. It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. Then look at Luke 24:44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Talking about fulfilled. Look at that. Matter of fact, it said all things. And what did 5:17-18 say? Heaven and earth won't pass till all be fulfilled. Now, I could look at that and say that, well, maybe it means fulfilled up here, but maybe not down here. Or, hey, I could look at it as it just means everything here. But if it means everything here, then what do you do with this?
I'm back. Can you hear me? I got it. Look,
And mhm.
fulfillment means fulfillment means obligation. It doesn't mean that it's done away with. It doesn't mean that the law is finished with. What's finished is the Levitical priesthood, which finishes the ceremonial law, which finishes the judgment. What else is finished? That's what's finished. Christ never taught against the law. Christ never said that the laws are done away with at all. Period. And that the things you're talking about being nailed to the cross is the things I just said. Like, how are you gonna know how to fear the Most High? How are you gonna know how to love? And I'm speaking from a carnal and a spiritual aspect.
All right, well, let's go ahead and deal with that. First off, was the law fulfilled that was written in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms? Yes or no? Or was Jesus a liar?
There you go. I never said Christ was a liar.
So was the law fulfilled? Was the law of Moses fulfilled and the prophets and the Psalms?
Yes, Christ fulfilled his obligation.
So does fulfill mean obligation? Can you show me in the Greek that fulfill means obligation?
Hold on. The Greek says destroyed, but the law is not destroyed.
No, I'm talking about fulfill, not
Well,
katalajo. I'm talking
well,
about teleo.
in the Greek, it says the word fulfillment means to. It says abolish, means to be destroyed. That's what it says
Really?
in the Greek. But the law is not done away with. He was talking
No,
about.
hold on.
He was
That's
talking
not
about.
what it means.
He was talking about the ceremonial, the Levitical
Um,
priesthood. He was talking about that.
okay, so and that's not what it means. I'm looking up the Strongs and Thayers right now. What you have is it says end, accomplish, pay, finish, I pay, and then you have Thayers, and Thayers says foreclose, finish, end, ask, ask, finish, perform, execute, complete, fulfill. Then after that, pay, and you have strong.
And I ain't got nothing in front of me. It's crazy.
Okay, it's okay. It's all right. It says to end, to complete, to execute, to conclude, to discharge, to accomplish, to make an end, to expire, to fill up, finish, to over, to pay, to perform. It does not say destroy. It does not say, whatever you were saying before. Not once. That's four lexicons.
Well, look, what I pulled up, I'm showing. It's just what I had a chance to pull up. I'm saying what it said.
Okay, and what did you pull up? What was it?
Hold on. What I pulled up, that's what. Let's look at this right quick. Oh, my fault, my fault. That's my fault. That's my fault. I clicked on the wrong thing. That's my fault.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's my fault. That's my fault.
So,
Shoot.
all right. So my question is, um, you say that you know Christ fulfilled the law, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, would that include the ceremonial law?
Yes.
Okay, so Christ fulfilled the ceremonial law, right? And so now our big hang up is what are all the ceremonial laws? You know, so we don't have to go to Acts 3:18. We don't got to go to Acts 13. We can just, just skip all that, because the disciples said, yes, he fulfilled the law. So I'm going to take this off screen. So now we got to find out what are the ceremonial laws. So let's go on a little internet hunt. Let's see, ceremonial law. Ceremonial.
Let me mute my stuff.
All right, so what you have here is ceremonial laws. All right. Now, if this is something we could put on screen, I'm putting this on screen. Let me see. Um. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on screen. Okay. Here it goes. And I'm gonna make it extra big for you so that way you can see it. All right. So let's make this real big. All right. And I'm gonna present to everybody. Now, I just went on a little website here. Looks like it's done its homework. And it's called JesusIsAlive.cc. It says this: ceremonial laws were given by God to Israel, and they pointed powerfully forward prophetically to Jesus Christ. Most of these laws made a distinction between what is clean and unclean, with many of them having practical benefits as well. In addition, they showed the holiness of God and were a way to show honor and respect to Him. These laws were connected with the Old Covenant and were fulfilled through Jesus' death and resurrection. In Jesus, we are now under a new covenant given to the church, and we are made pure, clean, and sanctified through Him. Therefore, ceremonial laws have passed and no longer need to be kept. Let me list a few examples of ceremonial laws given to Israel in the Old Testament that no longer apply today. This is what it says. Oh, let me make this a little bit. Here it is. Look at this. Men were to be circumcised, ceremonial law. They could not touch or eat pigs, ceremonial law. They could not eat the fat or blood of animals, ceremonial law. They could not touch any dead person, ceremonial law. Women were unclean during their menstrual cycles, ceremonial law. They could not wear clothing made of linen and wool, not of two different materials, as some might say, or sow a field with two kinds of seed. Good luck with GMO avoidance. Ceremonial law. Priests could not have a defect. I read through that one day and I wanted to make a hangout about it one day, but I discarded it. Interesting. Ceremonial law. Yeah. In other words, if you had I've read this, if you had a bruise on your hand or a burn, you couldn't be a priest for that day. Yes, you kept the law and obeyed the commandments and you did right by everybody, but you got a burn on your hand. Sorry, can't minister today. That's a ceremonial thing. Moral laws were given by God and will never pass away. Now, notice I've never been on this site, okay? Must never be broken and apply to everyone. The Ten Commandments, with the exception of the fourth commandment about the Sabbath day, are all examples of moral laws. These laws are based on God's unchanging nature and character. Oh my gosh. I swear to you, I've never been on this site. The Bible tells us in Romans 2:14 and 15 that we all instinctively know the difference between what is right and wrong because it is written on our hearts. For instance, we know our conscience that it is wrong to murder, steal, commit adultery. This gives moral laws a clear distinction from ceremonial laws, which man would not have known were wrong if God had not specifically stated that they needed to be followed. That's how different ceremonial laws are from moral laws. Ceremonial laws, you got to be taught. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. Moral laws, no, you know. That's why your heart skips a beat every time you lie, because you know you're wrong. I have nothing else to say. I'm going to go on mute.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Matt, you proved your point.
Well, bro, I mean, what do you think this means for you if you concede? I'm not trying to be conniving or nothing, but what do you think that means for you?
Well, I'm still going to keep the laws like I'm supposed to, and I'm gonna continue to be obedient like I'm supposed to. And you cannot keep. You don't have to keep the laws, and you got it. I'm still at work, but no excuses. You got it. And I'm standing on live stream. You got it. I didn't make the Israelite community look bad. I made Omar look bad. I ain't bugging, but you got it, homie.
Oh, look, bro, I want to keep it clear. My mission is not to just to make you look bad. Like my oh snap. Ah goodness. Well, I was trying to tell him that my mission is not here to make you look bad. That's not what I'm just up here doing. Nah, I'm here to draw you, man, and just to give you the truth of the gospel of Christ. Like the New Testament says that the law is a burden. Now in the Old Testament, maybe it was something else. In the New Testament, it's saying that okay, it's good and it's holy, but now because of the New Testament, it's become something else now. It's a burden. You don't have to do that. If you think you have to eat certain kind of animals to please God, and not certain kind of animals to please God or whatever, you, you don't have to do that. If you're in a relationship with somebody and they make it real clear that they speak about things that their mom taught them, and all of a sudden they tell you things that they want you to do in a relationship, right? What they want from you in a relationship, then what are you going to do? You're going to do what she said to do in a relationship. Not, well, you know what? Your mom raised you to be like a certain way, and your mom has some good rules, so I'm gonna add some of them too. And she said, well, no, like, I've done all those things. I don't want you to do all them things. I want you to do what I told you to do. This is our relationship, right? Well, yeah, but I still want to do some other stuff that your mom told you to do. I want to do those right by you too. Like, well, wait a minute. And it's like everybody wants a relationship with God based on their own rules and agendas and stuff. Meanwhile, God is like, no, hey, I said this is cool now. I want you to do this over here. This is how you're gonna be a city on the hill for me by doing this. Well, nah, you know what? I still at least want to do some of these other things over here. What? Back in that old covenant that I brought to death by my only son? God, I know that you paid my bill. I understand that, really. Um, but I still want to go ahead and give you this money back. So look, man, I'm gonna pay you back. Wow, you can't pay back what I did for you. Well, no, 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 no. I'm not trying to do that. You see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to do that. You know, uh, I'm just doing it because I it would be a good thank you. Well, what about what I told you to do? That would be a thankfulness unto me. I told you to what? Matthew 25. Well, nah, I still want to put a little Exodus 20 with that. Like, what? I mean, I really think that, look, man, I had no clue I was going to be talking this long today. I didn't know, but I personally think this for a reason, y'all. Wake up. Listen, the Lord loves you, and He wants you to live how He wants you to live. You know what I'm saying? You don't walk up before God and say, well, I know you did a lot to end that old covenant, but I still want to go ahead and do some all old stuff. I don't know. I mean, even in Titus, it said, listen, to the pure, all things are pure. How is this possible, dietary wise? Only someone under the new covenant could say and live like that. Even when you look in the works of the flesh, where it says uncleanness, it's literally wrapped around a whole bunch of sexual stuff that's sinful. When you look up that word unclean in the Thayers, which I've done live with my debate with Yehukanon, you can look it up on my YouTube channel. I read the Thayers. What was it? Moral, 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 moral. No ceremonial. Talk about moral uncleanness. In other words, you bite a piece of pig, that's not the kind of uncleanness it's talking about. You have sex outside of marriage, that's the uncleanness it's talking about. It's a moral thing. I think Night Jerusalem here said, what's wrong with the rules, guidelines, and instructions that the Most High has left for men? The funny thing is, you people don't argue with the law of man. So why are you with the law of the Most High? Let's break that down. What's wrong with the rules, guidelines, and instructions that the Most High has left for men? Nothing is wrong with it. Matter of fact, read Romans 7. Said the law is good. Matter of fact, it says the law is spiritual. That's how a new covenant talks about the law. And also that's how the old covenant talks about the law. The law is holy. The law is good. There's nothing wrong with the law. Hey, the law is fine. The law is not the problem. Guess who the problem is? You. Then he says, the funny thing is, all right, yeah, I'll put it as title, man. No problem. He said, the funny thing is, you people don't argue with the law of man. Okay, so I don't argue with the law of man. And your point is, I don't understand why that's the problem. Should we be arguing with the law of man? Last time I checked, the law of man didn't make a covenant with me, didn't send his son to die for me, didn't do anything for me. So why are you with the law of the Most High? I guess he means, so why do you have a problem with the law of the Most High? I don't have a problem with the law. I have a problem with people who say that we need to keep the old covenant law despite the fact that the God of this universe sent his only son to bleed a painful crucifixion death to make a new law, just for us to say, yeah, that was pretty tough, what you went through, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep the law anyway. Wait, excuse me? Who are you? Well, I want to please you. Okay, well, if you want to please me, look at the teachings of my son who made the new covenant. Have you read any of them? That's how you could please me. Well, I mean, yeah, they're nice, what I'm saying? They're cool, but I just want to add a little Exodus 20, what I'm saying? I want to add a little Deuteronomy 28. They're like, whoa, you want to add the curses? Do you see how offensive this is? You want to add the curses to a New Testament that says that the transgressions of the first law were redeemed by the new covenant, and you want to add the curses back? I can understand why Hebrews says we are not like them who draw back and are destroyed, but we press forward and we draw near to God. I know why it says that now. Deloise Reese, she says, but the law was good for Israel to understand that they couldn't keep it. It was to show them that they was not perfect and the law was. So God had to send a perfect man. The perfect man was Christ. Amen. Listen, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and roll out. Um, maybe we'll just have another chat. Um, maybe I'll chat with somebody else. Um, if you're out there and you're a Hebrew, just know that we're praying for you. And you have to really ask yourself, why are you really leaning on these laws? Why are you doing it? Are you really doing it to please God? Are you really doing it to please God? Or are you doing it because of some nationalistic indigenous culture? This is my people sense. No, I'm really not doing it like that, you know. But I do love that Shirts and Fringes website, and I do love all them commercials, and I do love all them videos that IUIC says when, my natural hair is beautiful. Anyway, look, maybe I'll, rant later on tonight or something. I gotta go to practice soon. But all right, y'all. Um, peace, love, and say it with me. Fried chicken. You darn right. All right, y'all. Finger licking good. I'm out of here. Peace. Oh, there it is.